Greetings and more greetings from the North Pole. No, it's actually New Zealand. Actually closer to the South Pole, isn't it? Now, antibiotics. We've all heard about them. We've all taken them. Some of us love them, some of us hate them. But you know my stance on antibiotics. To me, you might as well take Novichok, that Russian neurotoxin. To me, they're probably a bit similar. One's just going to kill you a lot faster than the other. I don't like antibiotics. I'm quite unashamedly open to say that I hate them. I really, really hate them. I think they certainly work in about 0.05% of cases. They're like, life or death, you have to have them. But 90% plus of antibiotics are just completely superfluous when you think about how many people take them for the stupidest reasons. Anyway, enough bashing of antibiotics, but here's the question. I was on antibiotics for almost a decade due to cystic acne. I love my gut to be healthy and normal again. Where do I start? Well, the first thing you do is you tear up the phone number of the doctor who gave you the 10 years of antibiotics and you flush it down the loo. That's the first thing you do. Get rid of the guy's phone number, right? Don't say bad things about him. He can't help it that he gives stuff like that. I mean, that's what he's trained to do, okay? Soldiers are trained to kill people. Doctors are trained to give drugs to people. I mean, that's just how it is, all right? Where do you start? It's a very good question. I probably would like to explain to you something that happened to me when I was a young guy, and this might really make you understand about where you should start and how long it's going to take, all right? I remember on this channel a while ago, I spoke about my case of Candida when I was a young guy back in the 80s, and I lived in a small house, and it was a cheap part of town in Brisbane where I lived in. I didn't have a lot of money. I worked in a flour mill. I was on like a low wage, so I lived in this crappy little home that was prone to flooding basically, and it was cheap. Now I also grow stuff, so I tried to grow some vegetables there. Not much luck. I tell you why, because the yard was disgusting. It had some car tires dumped in it, there were broken bottles in it. There was even some car parts in there with oil stains that were leaked into the soil. Now, as you can imagine, I'm talking about someone's gut now. Okay, car tires lying around, sump oil leaked into the soil. This is what happens to the small bowel when you take antibiotics. It basically destroys all the bacteria in there. Okay? It's going to ruin that environment. Just like oil and broken glass and crap ruins a soil environment, so you can't really grow anything in it. So what did I do? Well, being industrious, okay, I knew the landlord quite well, so he dropped off a trailer and I got most of the car parts out from this one area and started to dig soil out. And then I realized in the backyard he had big piles of topsoil. Okay, so I started to shift that soil around to where I dug the soil out. Now I took about 12 inches of soil out of there. All right. Did vegetables grow straight away when you put them in that topsoil? No, it took a long time. I was there for a while. So the point I'm making is, if you've got a good gut, clean soil, things grow in it quite well. If you've got a gut that's been trashed, okay, with antibiotics, it's going to take a long time. The more sump oil there and the more car parts and the deeper the damage, the longer it will take. But I can tell you now, even 10 years in antibiotics, I've seen some patients recover in 6 to 12 months. I've seen other patients never recover after antibiotics for 1 year. There's no way of really knowing unless you do stool testing, okay? So the person who wrote this question, I was on antibiotics for 10 years. If you don't do a stool test, to me, it's just insanity in this sort of case, not doing it. Not spending the several $100 to try and get your health into top form. What, is it a money problem? I'm sure you can get the money from somewhere to do this test, because to me, it's the make or break. Because that's going to give you your starting point. Because remember what you said? How do I start? Well, you start like the Monopoly game, okay? You start in one corner and you go around the board. And it's the same with this thing, okay? So in your case, if you want to pick up the $200 when you're going around the board, you need to do that test, okay? Because the test gives you your starting point. So then you understand that board, where you're going to go, what direction you're going to go, okay? Let's just say you do the test and it comes back with surprise, surprise, extremely low levels of good bacteria, and surprise, surprise, high levels of yeast. All right, you will certainly find something in the stool test. So the stool test is going to be your map. All right, it's going to give you a direction in which to go in. And once you've got that, it's very clever. You file that away. You look at it. You get interpreted by a professional person who'll give you a couple of good pointers. And you've got a few options in this case. So probiotics are certainly something you want to think about. But also, if you've got high levels of unfriendlies, you need to work on those guys. But if we've got very high counts of bad guys and very low counts of good guys, we're not going to come in with all guns blazing, all right? We start very low. So it's like any army that you've got an army and you want to fight something else. It's all about tactics. You've got to understand your position and the strengths and weaknesses of the opposition in this case. The opposition in this case being bacteria or yeast or whatever. So as I said, going in all guns blazing with the Marines on the ground like the Americans do, it's sometimes the worst thing you can do. You can create far more carnage than anything. All right, so, and again, the stool test may come back not so bad. So I would recommend that's your starting point. Work on the stool test and then preferably do a treatment plan, and then you may want to wait, a few months and then repeat the stool test. Maybe a lighter test. You don't need the full shebang here with the second test. So that will save you money. But this is the way for you to get out of the hole, to climb out of the hole, is to test, treat, okay, monitor. And then once you're in that monitoring phase, then you can start seeing how the symptoms are going. You can maybe repeat the test or things like that. So, but the diet and lifestyle obviously need to be in line. They need to be correct if you really want the treatment to work successfully. But what I'm also trying to say is never give up, because even 10 years of antibiotics, there's a high possibility that you can get your health back in top shape. There's a small possibility that you can never get it back in 100% again, but that's small, okay? Most people can. Where there's a will, there's a way. And the mind's quite powerful. If you've got a powerful mind and you work towards a goal, guess what? You'll achieve that goal. Thanks for tuning in.